Resilience isn't what you think it is. What if resilience isn't something you build after you stop struggling, but something you've been demonstrating the entire time? Most of us were taught that resilience looks like certainty, toughness, confidence. But what if it actually looks like staying, trying again, and surviving things that you gave yourself credit for? And that's what we're unpacking today.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome back to Ordinary to Badass, the podcast where women, predominantly male industries, learn to rise, lead, and own their power without apology. What felt ordinary and what felt badass? I have a million things on my to-do list. I have a bunch of things that I'm trying to get done for Ordinary to Badass, and I'm not complaining because I absolutely love it. I just sometimes you get caught in the middle of it, just checking all the boxes of the things. And I've mentioned before, I hired a business coach and it has been super helpful, but I'm trying to attack all those things. And then honestly, I get a little bit like squirrel and then I go off course and then I have to pull myself back and redirect. Usually I pull myself back after it's already done or after I'm deep into it and I feel like I gotta finish it then. Yeah, it's really crazy how scatterbrained I am, but that's okay. That's ordinary, right? I'm learning from it. I have a long way to go trying to give myself grace, but it's a learning process. What felt badass? What has felt badass is I'm batching things. Have you heard of batching? Batching is when you have similar tasks that you have to get done, and then you group them together so you can get them all done in one sitting. I'm doing that with podcast episodes. I'm trying to do that with my stomach is growling. I'm trying to do that with social media content, with writing my newsletters. And listen, I've only done it for a weekend. I've done it in the past, and that's when I've been the most successful and where I feel I have more free time. So I am definitely trying to get back to that. But it does feel good just sitting here hammering it out. And then, yeah, then I'll have more time to breathe or get some of the other stuff done. But it does tend to work better when you group them together. So if you have filming to do, you do all your filming on one day. If you have writing to do, whether it's for content or newsletters, whatever it is, then you sit down and you write, and that's all you do for that time. So I've been doing everything so individual, so batching. It's a thing. You could do is say you have to make your kids lunches instead of making them a lunch every single day. Is there a way you could do it all on Sunday for every day of the week? So it's taking one compact time instead of every day taking individual little pieces. Or you could do this for cleaning. You block out one day instead of having to get some done every day. But it does seem to free up time. You have to think about the tasks less. So yeah, that's felt badass because it's been many years since I've done batching. So hopefully I can stick with it. Fingers crossed. I'm going to tell you about a masterclass, but before I do, I just want you to know that before I ever stepped into leadership, before I sat on thousands of boards for interviews and for promotions, I didn't actually understand how decisions were made. And honestly, if I had known, I wouldn't have been so hard on myself. I wouldn't have replayed interviews over and over again in my head. I would have stopped assuming that every no I got meant something about me. A lot of the pressure that we put on ourselves comes from not seeing what happens behind closed doors. And that's actually why I'm hosting this masterclass behind closed doors. It's not about interviewing better. It's about understanding the lens for which decisions are made or the lens the boss is using to make decisions. So this can help you to stop second guessing yourself. If you're going for a promotion, this will absolutely help you. So I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can go to ordinarytobadass.com/ behind closed doors. If you have a friend that's going for a promotion, send it to them. This is absolutely relevant because so often we don't know the secrets. We don't know the things that are talked about or even what we're being evaluated on. It might say you're being evaluated one thing on paper, but how evaluations actually go behind closed doors is different. So it's important that you know. Today, we're going to talk about resilience and not just the Instagram worthy or motivational quote version of resilience. If I'm being honest, I didn't feel resilient for a long time. I didn't trust that I could bounce back, that I could get through hard things. So if you're feeling that way, I hear you. I can absolutely 100% relate to that. But it doesn't mean it's too late. It doesn't mean you can't change things now. Especially earlier in my career, I doubted myself. I doubted every single decision that I made and just just didn't know that I could get through it or that just because you doubt yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody doubts themselves. What do you do after that? And that's where the resilience coming in. It's like, okay, I know that I doubted myself. I know that I felt crappy. I know that I made a mistake, but then I move on and then I keep going. Not only is that resilient, it's pretty badass. There's a misconception out there that resilience has to mean you're confident, has to mean you're absolutely certain about all your decisions, or that you're tough. If you're in a predominantly male industry, it's easy to believe that you have to be tough if you're resilient. And I know for me, the more that I have questioned myself and doubted myself, the worse that it has gotten. And so it's really about catching yourself and still moving forward and taking action instead of letting the doubt stop you. So I want you to think about it a little bit. Have you ever replayed decisions in your head? Wondered if you should have done things differently? Have you ever thought that doubt equals weakness? I know I have. If you don't feel like you're resilient, it does not mean you're broken. Congrats, you're human. It's like those times where we don't feel resilient, where we do feel broken. People don't talk about that. So it's not easy to recognize that everybody else goes through that same thing because it's not something that's publicly talked about, right? I can't even say that I talk about it in my everyday life. I talk about it here on the podcast, maybe in social media, but to my friends in everyday life or to my coworkers, no, probably not. Maybe, I don't know. But again, it's not as socially acceptable to talk about. So if you have felt broken or down on yourself, you're not alone. It's not just you going through it. I want to talk about resilience today, not the motivational quote resilience or the Instagram worthy kind of resilience, but what I think resilience actually is, because I think many of us have it wrong. We don't need to push harder, power through, or never doubt ourselves, because that's the version that I often see. And if I'm being honest, I did not feel resilient for a long freaking time. I was constantly doubting myself. Every decision felt heavy. And you know what? Every choice that I had to make, it felt like low-grade anxiety. I would constantly be thinking, what if I'm wrong? And the more I questioned myself, the worse it got. And I definitely thought that resilience was like, okay, confident people are resilient because they can bounce back, or I thought it meant certainty or being tough. Because if you work in a predominantly male industry, toughness is certainly the thing. So if you want to be resilient, you have to be tough. You can't show any emotion. You have to bounce back super quick, even when it's still bothering you. That's the perception that's given. And for some reason, it just seems like resilient people just know. They just know how it all goes, how to do it. Everything works smooth for them. And you know what? Because I didn't feel that way, I assumed that I wasn't resilient. If you've ever replayed decisions in your head, thought that doubt meant weakness, if you don't feel resilient right now, you're not broken. Probably just like me, you're misunderstanding what resilience is. Okay, so here's the reframe that changed things for me. What if mistakes were allowed? What if failure doesn't mean, oh man, I'm bad at this, but instead it means I learned something? And what if everything you've ever done, it's not wrong? It was just necessary. Necessary for perspective, necessary for growth, necessary for becoming the person that you are right now. We tend to look at the past and think of it as a list of charges that are against us. Evidence that we weren't ready, evidence that we weren't smart enough, that we didn't do it right. But resilience, it's not something that you can earn later once you figure it out. And I say that in air quotes. It's something that you recognize right now. Here's something that I want you to think about. What if your past wasn't a liability? What if it was proof? Most of you listening to this podcast episode are over 30 years old. And listen, you don't get to be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and beyond without going through some things. Life has probably been lifing, right? You've been through some stuff. You got your life cred instead of street cred, corny. I know, I'm here for it. You've probably experienced loss, disappointment, stress, starting over. Maybe you had to end things that you thought would last. But here's what we do. We normalize our own hardship. We say things like, it wasn't that bad, or I'm over it. Other people have been through worse than me. We tell ourselves, I should be over this by now. But really? Should you? If you're not over it, how do you know that you should be over it? But if someone else lived your exact life, had the same experiences that you've had, same setbacks, same responsibilities, and you somehow knew the full story, you'd probably say to yourself, damn, they're strong. Or heck, you might even tell them what a badass they are. And you'd think how resilient they are. Here's the thing though, you just don't say that about yourself. You don't recognize all of the things that you've gone through and that you've bounced back from. Most of us don't. So let me ask you, what have you survived that you never count, that you never take into consideration, that you never give yourself credit for? And one thing I want you to take note of is the fact that you bounced back. Maybe after you had a loved one die, it took you 10 years to start to become yourself again. Don't beat yourself up about the 10 years that it took. It's like you had a freaking loved one die, right? Instead, focus on the fact that you bounced back. You didn't let that take you down. You're still here. You're still breathing. So we go through hard things, and the amount of time that it took to recover, that's not the important thing to focus on. What's important is the fact that you're still here, that you got through it, that you survived that hard thing. We just don't give ourselves credit for the things that we've gone through. And one of the reasons why we don't feel resilient is because we try to move on too fast. We try to stop talking about it and get over it. And we only track what went wrong, what we still need to fix or improve upon, what we still need to fix, what we haven't figured out yet. We don't mark resilience. We only mark results. And even then, sometimes we move on from those pretty quickly. And that really was a big reason why I had created the Proof of My Badassery guided journal. Not as hyper, rah, not affirmations, but a place to remember. To remember the divorce you lived through, the medical stuff that knocked you sideways, the debt that you paid off, the times that you failed and you tried again anyway. You don't forget those things because they don't matter. You forget them because nobody taught you to track your strength. You might not even realize that they were a strength, but they are. And untracked strength, it starts to feel invisible. We forget about it. Our memory, we lose it. We forget about it as if it was nothing, or we hold it against ourselves. But you have to track your proof. So then you can look at it, and that is evidence of all that you have been through, of all that you have overcome. Resilience, it is built by doing hard things. Here's something that's simple, but super important. Comfort doesn't build resilience. Hard things do, especially the hard things that you're not naturally good at. My natural instinct is to stay quiet, to not push back, not confront somebody, because being quiet is absolutely easier. It's safer, doesn't make any waves, but it also doesn't make me feel strong. Speaking up when my voice shakes, that does. When I walked 140 miles across Spain, it wasn't graceful. It wasn't easy. I hate hills. I had to walk hills. My normal mantra is F hills. My sister said she was going to get me a shirt that said that, right? And some days I was exhausted, uncomfortable, absolutely questioning my choices. But those days they stayed with me. One day I had to walk 19 and a half miles. It was insane. And here's the thing is I walked the 19 and a half miles and that was the hilliest day ever. And The town that I was going to, it's the elevation was so high, kids under, I don't remember if it was 5, but young kids could not spend the night in that town because the elevation was way too high. But as I'm going up it, I'm like, oh, I hate hills, F hills. I don't want to do this. This sucks, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? At the end of that 19-mile day, I felt pretty badass. I was like, oh my gosh, I walked so many miles today and it was such an incline and such a hike. That felt awesome. And I wouldn't have got that same reward or that same feeling if I had just taxied up that part. Or some people were taking horses up that because to get to Ocebrero, it is so high, such an incline. And I was tempted. I do not shame you if you took the horse option up or if you do that. But I realized while I was going, like, oh, that's the thing. I really suck at hills. I really hate hills. But when I completed it, I felt even more badass. And then it built up resilience for next time, even for the next day. Like, oh, if I conquered the hilly day of 19 and a half miles, then what can I do tomorrow? So the easy things, they don't feel as meaningful afterwards. And hard things, they do. Those stick with you. So let me hand this back to you. Put the ball back in your court. What hard thing did you do or overcome that you downplay? What did you survive that quietly changed you? Resilience, it grows through repetition. The more that I learn to speak up, the easier it becomes. And not that I stop being uncomfortable, but because I trust myself. I know what I stand for, what my values are, what matters to me. And that creates internal safety. Acting from your values, even when it feels uncomfortable, that builds self-trust. And self-trust is a form of resilience. So ask yourself, where are you choosing comfort over alignment? What value have you held on to, even when it's cost you something? Here's something else that I don't think that we talk about nearly enough. Resilience doesn't have to mean constant effort. Your nervous system is important here because resilience, it's also built in the quiet moments. Walking outside, breathing in nature, walking outside, being in nature, taking some deep breaths, creating something for no reason, being less hard on yourself, learning how to rest when you need to without thinking it's only something you could do when you're just absolutely burnt out. Take the rest you need now. Recovery is a leadership skill and it's not something that's taught. We're so often taught go, go, go instead of chill, just be. But if you take care of yourself, then it's easier to take care of other people. There's a quote that I love, and I don't even know who said it, but rest is not the opposite of work. It's part of work. It's what makes things work. That last part I added, but just to make sure I give myself credit. Kidding. So rest is not the opposite of work. It's part of work. So you don't become resilient by running yourself into the ground. You become resilient by learning how to come back to yourself. So resilience, it's not about becoming somebody new. It's about recognizing who you already are. It's about acknowledging where you've been and what you've come through. Acknowledging what you need in this moment. Sometimes you have to talk to yourself like your child. What do you need right now? What would be helpful for you? What would feel good to you right now? So I'll leave you with this. What have you survived that you're finally ready to give yourself credit for? Write it down. So important. If we don't write it down, we will forget. And it's easy to remember the mistakes we made, but not to remember how we grew from it, how we learned, how we bounced back from it. So write it down. With that, we'll end our show. And remember, keep showing up, keep speaking up, and never ever shrink for a seat at the table. Because you, my friend, were born to build it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.